You doubled your household income, but somehow you managed to have your freedom. Most families believe that adding a second paycheck is a simple game of addition, creating a surplus for wealth and early retirement. In reality, you've performed a high-stakes bait and switch on your future, trading a resilient safety net for a fragile, gilded cage. Hello, I'm Rabbi Soul. I'm here to decode the ultimate laws of money, helping you understand the root of wealth and master the financial game. Today, we aren't talking about saving on lattes. We are exposing why your dual-income life has become a systemic, high-income mousetrap. By the end of this, you'll understand why earning more has left you feeling more vulnerable than your parents ever were on a single salary. If you find this logic sound, give this video a like so the algorithm can spread this truth to those still running the rat race. Let's look at the numbers and realize why you feel broke despite making great money. Part 1. The Illusion of Addition. Meet Sarah and Mark, the quintessential, successful couple who are actually one bad week away from total financial ruin. Sarah pulls in $62,000 in marketing. Mark makes $71,000 in IT, bringing their combined household income to a staggering $133,000. This puts them in the top quartile of earners, yet they are stressed, exhausted, and living essentially paycheck to paycheck in a nice suburb. On paper, they should be crushing it, maxing out their 401s, and taking luxury vacations without a second thought to the cost. Instead, they have 2 months of savings, a mounting credit card balance for a recent car repair, and a heavy sense of dread. They followed the script. They got the degrees, landed the corporate roles, bought the house in the good district, and merged their lives. The math of basic addition failed them because their expenses didn't just grow. They became structural, non-negotiable liabilities. People think that 2 earners mean double the security. But Sarah and Mark represent the modern reality of high-income poverty. When your survival depends on 2 people working at 100% capacity, you haven't built a life. You've built a ticking time bomb. If Sarah gets laid off or Mark burns out, the entire house of cards doesn't just wobble. It collapses instantly. Their mortgage, 2 car payments, and childcare costs were all calculated based on that combined 6-figure number, leaving 0 margin for human error. They are running a marathon at a sprint pace, and they've forgotten that in a real race, the one with no breath left is the first to fall. They look at their bank account every Friday and wonder where the money went, feeling like they are too rich to be this stressed. They aren't irresponsible. They are simply trapped in a system that weaponized their second income against their own stability. To escape, they must first realize that their combined income is a ghost, a number that appears on tax returns but vanishes before it hits their actual life. Part 2. The Harvard Revelation. Having 2 incomes doesn't make you twice as safe. It actually makes you more likely to go bankrupt. This isn't just a feeling, it is a documented economic reality first uncovered by a Harvard professor before she became a senator. In 2003, Elizabeth Warren and her daughter studied over 2,000 families filing for bankruptcy and found a terrifying common denominator: dual incomes. They discovered that a 2-income family in the early 2000s was actually more financially fragile than a single-income family from 30 years prior. Most people assume bankruptcy is the result of reckless spending on jet skis and designer bags, but the data tells a far darker story. The trap isn't built of luxuries, it's built of necessities, like housing, health insurance, and education that have expanded to consume every available cent. You are working twice as hard to stay in the same place, and the system has removed your parachute. When you commit both incomes to your fixed monthly nut, you are operating a high-performance engine with no oil and no backup reserves. You've activated your emergency backup plan, the second worker, as your default operating mode, leaving you with nowhere to turn when life hits. Part 3. The Ghost of 1970. In 1970, a single income wasn't just enough, it was a powerful insurance policy for the entire family. Back then, only 43% of women were in the workforce, and a median single income could afford a median-priced home with ease. That family spent only 25% of their income on housing and still had room for health care, a car, and a yearly vacation. More importantly, they had financial margin. If the father lost his job, the mother could enter the workforce to bridge the gap. That second potential income was an untapped emergency fund, a dormant asset that provided genuine peace of mind and structural resilience. Today, that asset has been liquidated. We've cashed in our stay-at-home insurance just to qualify for a mortgage in a decent school district. We are making more money than our grandparents ever did, yet we are drowning in the cost of basic participation. Adjusted for inflation, housing costs have doubled since 1970, while healthcare spending per household has exploded by over 600%. We traded a life of flexibility and Plan Bs for a life of rigid, six-figure obligations that leave no room for the reality of being human. You aren't failing at personal finance. You are failing at a game that was rigged to absorb your second paycheck. The modern economy saw your second income coming and adjusted the prices of the middle-class starter pack to match your new budget. You didn't get richer. The world just got more expensive because everyone else showed up with two paychecks to the same bidding war. Part 4. The Mathematical Cannibalism. That second $50,000 salary isn't actually $50,000. It's a mathematical ghost. Most couples look at their gross pay and assume they are bringing home a full second bucket of wealth, but they ignore the cannibal effect. Because of progressive tax brackets, that second income is taxed at your highest marginal rate, meaning the government takes the first and biggest bite. If the first earner makes $70,000, the second person's $50,000 is piled on top, potentially facing an effective tax rate of 35%. After federal, state, and payroll taxes, that $50,000 shrivels down to $32,000 before you even put the keys in the ignition. Then comes the child care tax, the brutal reality that in many cities, one entire paycheck simply pays for someone else to raise your kids. If you have 2 children in daycare, your second income has likely already reached the break-even point of 0. Add in 2 commutes, 2 sets of professional wardrobes, and the exhaustion expenses of being too tired to cook after a 10-hour day. When you are both grinding, you stop cooking at home and start paying a premium for convenience, outsourcing your life to delivery apps and cleaners. By the time you subtract the hidden costs of working, that $50,000 job might net you only $2,000 a year. You are trading 40 hours a week, missing your children's milestones, and enduring corporate stress for essentially $1 per hour. You aren't building a future. You are running a high-speed treadmill just to fund the privilege of being able to stay on the treadmill. Part 5. The Arms Race. You aren't buying a house, you are buying a ticket to a bidding war that you helped create. In the 1970s, families competed for homes based on a single income. Today, the standard competitor brings 2 salaries to the negotiation table. When everyone has twice the purchasing power, the price of the asset simply doubles, leaving no one with a genuine advantage in the long run. This is particularly vicious in good school districts. Since public schools are funded by property taxes, the best education is locked behind a mortgage wall. You use your second income to outbid another couple for a house in a safe area, and they do the exact same thing to you. You end up with a $400,000 debt for a house that used to cost half that, all for the same free public education. The second income didn't buy you a better life, it just raised the price of admission to the middle class. If everyone has a weapon, a second income, then the weapon becomes the baseline requirement just to survive the neighborhood. You are now locked into a high fixed cost life where neither of you can ever afford to quit, regardless of health, happiness, or burnout. The bank sees your combined income and says, yes, but they don't care if you have a life. They only care if you have a payment. They qualify you for the absolute maximum, ensuring that you remain a loyal servant to the interest rate for the next 30 years. By maximizing your borrowing power, you have effectively signed away your quitting power, trading your freedom for square footage you're too tired to enjoy. Part 6. Breaking the snare. You don't need a higher salary, you need a lower baseline. The only way to win a rigged game is to refuse to play by its rules, starting with how you view your household's survival number. You must structure your fixed, non-negotiable costs so they can be fully covered by the smaller of your two incomes alone. This means choosing the house that one salary can service, the car that one salary can pay for, and the lifestyle that doesn't require a miracle to maintain. Most people do the exact opposite. They treat two incomes as a permanent guarantee and build a life that is brittle by design. By living on one income, you turn the second paycheck from a lifestyle fuel into a high-powered wealth engine that buys back your time. Every dollar of that second income should be funneled into assets that produce cash flow, not liabilities that demand it. Imagine the psychological power of knowing that if one of you loses a job tomorrow, the lights stay on and the house is safe. That margin is the ultimate luxury. It is the FIU money that allows you to say no to toxic bosses or soul-crushing commutes. This requires the discipline to drive a modest car while your neighbors flaunt leased German SUVs they can barely afford. You are trading the appearance of prosperity for the reality of power, the power to choose how you spend your one and only life. Within 5 to 10 years of this one-income foundation, your investments will start generating more income than your job ever could. True wealth isn't measured by what you earn, but by how many no's you can afford to say. The two-income trap is a structural reality of the modern world, but it only catches those who refuse to see the math behind it. Our grandparents had a safety net. We have a high-speed treadmill. The choice to step off that treadmill starts with a single decision today. Stop looking at your gross income as a trophy and start looking at your fixed costs as a prison cell. The smaller the cell, the easier it is to leave. If you want to master the game of money, you have to be willing to look broke to people who are actually drowning in debt. If this perspective shifted your mindset, share this video with someone who is currently grinding for a second income they never get to see. I'm Rabbi Soul. Join the community by subscribing, and let's keep decoding the invisible scripts that keep the world in survival mode. And stop being a servant to your second paycheck, and start being the master of your own time. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember, math doesn't lie, but marketing often does. Build your foundation wisely.